Hello once again and welcome back to another sketchbook session. Today's video is supposed to be part 2 from a previous video where I talked about my experience working at Tim Hortons. I was previously talking about the kind of benefits, I guess, of working at such a job, and I was planning to talk about the drawbacks and the worst things that I've experienced at Tim Hortons, but I actually recorded an audio already and I was editing that for like a week now. And I found myself getting really annoyed at just me complaining about customers because that's like majority of the audio was just me complaining about horrible customers. Honestly, I was getting so annoyed and I don't really want to be complaining for like 20 minutes talking about it. So I thought I'd just kind of give like a rundown, kind of like a summary. But yeah, I was basically complaining about customers and the type of interactions that happened while working there for 5 years. The horrible customers that I came across. So you've got your usual Karens, and you've got your casual racists, then you have your inappropriate customers whose vocabulary are all innuendos and they love talking to the minors on the store and it's just creepy every time. And then of course you've got your really violent ones and the ones with really bad anger issues who take out their frustration onto the coworkers just because we're behind the counter. And you've got your usual entitled assholes. There's just so many strangers, and that's what they are. Customers are strangers, and you just never know who's coming in and who you're interacting with. And the customers that stand out in such a job are the horrible ones because even the genuinely nice and kind people, they are pretty reserved and they do have walls up. Not all of them, of course. Some are very nice and very outwardly nice. But I find that a lot of the genuinely nice people and kind people, they're reserved, and they are not the ones who are fake nice. I remember one time, I'm just going to give one example. One time, this customer who became a regular, and it came to the point where a lot of the coworkers memorized his order and how he liked his breakfast and stuff. Sometimes, by the time he was at the counter, his order was ready because certain coworkers would just know the time that he came in and stuff. But there was that one time that one of his breakfasts, and I mean it was just that one time because the person who ended up serving him was a new person. Anyways, he got his breakfast wrong, and he came back and basically like ushered me over and said, "Oh, I am really disappointed. This is all kinds of wrong." And I stood there like, okay, and I didn't give him anything besides, okay, I'll make you a new one, and then send him on his way. That was absolutely unnecessary. He embodied that phrase. Like he took a whole mile when we gave him an inch. Like because one of his order was wrong, all of the sudden we're not allowed to make mistakes. And like in places like fast food, it's so hectic, it's so chaotic, and there's multiple things happening at once. Mistakes are bound to be made, both by the coworkers and the customers, and that's just the nature of things. But yeah, he showed his true colors. So that's why I really think that genuinely nice and kind people are pretty reserved. Your interaction with customers is very timed. It's within like a 2 3 minute time frame. And basically, what I took away from dealing with all of these kinds of customers and the variety of of them is that personally, I cannot interact with customers beyond small talk anymore. Anything beyond just having a nice attitude in general, I do not entertain, because one day you'll be on your way home and it's 11 p.m. and you're waiting for the bus to come, and then across the street you'll see that one old man that comes to the store who keeps harassing your coworkers, and who keeps insisting that you give them your social media, or who keeps insisting that you go on a date with them, and it will freak you the fuck out. And honestly, you just never know. Like, you never know who you're serving, who you never know who's coming into the store. Because at the end of the day, and this is words to live by, and I implore that you remember this anytime you're outside. If you want to be paranoid about people, be paranoid about the right thing. To remember, everybody eats something, everybody drinks something, almost everybody goes to fast food, to stores, to whatever establishment. And that includes all the horrible people in society, including murderers, serial killers, and all of that. So, working in fast food, especially nowadays with like social media up, it's very hard to stay at a job that consistently has customers who are horrible. And it's definitely one of the reasons why I left, because I personally just could not deal with these kinds of customers anymore. It just happened in every shift. There was not a day, not one shift where I could go throughout the day without experiencing a horrible interaction. You know, that eventually, if you stay in that kind of environment, at least for me, I felt it around year 4. I just felt like all the confidence that I had gained in the first 2 3 years, all the thick skin that I developed, the self esteem that I worked on, it felt like it was starting to drain away the longer I stayed at the job. And honestly, that's kind of one of the hardest things that you will come to realize, or at least that I did, was that at some point I wanted and I needed to say goodbye and move on and just change my environment. But I had this sense of content and the feeling of familiarity. And because I knew how to navigate this kind of setting in my life, with this job, I stayed longer than I needed to. And honestly, that's like one of the only kind of regrets that I would say I had, not leaving sooner. Besides the customers, your coworkers, the managers, the corporate higher ups, those things can be very horrible too. Even things like the physical pain of working long hours, the burns that I got, the bruises that I discovered every time I come home to shower, because I was just bumping into things and stuff. And, you know, all the physical and emotional damage. But yeah, working and dealing with those kinds of customers, you really have to pick your battles, and sometimes you have to swallow your pride, and you will come to realize, or at least I did, I had to confront my flaws and my faults and my ego, because working at fast food really feels like a lesson in knowing yourself. If I had stayed there, I think I would have fallen deeper into depression and in this state of mind that felt like it was a step back. And there were personal things that were happening in the forefront, but those things were kind of beyond my control, and it was just things that were affecting me. And my job was one of the things that I could actually make a choice about. And I think that realization of me leaving the job was kind of like me taking back control, because other things were happening that were outside of my control that I really couldn't help change. So I eventually left the job, and then I went into retail, and that's a whole different thing. But the environment was definitely quite better than the food service. But I didn't stay long in that retail job because the pandemic lockdown ensued afterwards. Anyways, in general, working at fast food is really not for the weak. It's the kind of job that will make or break you. And I've actually watched a few of the story time here on YouTube about people's experience working at fast food, and oh gosh, there was some of the most horrendous things that I've come across. If every person were to experience working at fast food once in their life, then I feel like people in general would be more kinder. But that's just me wishfully thinking. It really does tell you what a person is like with how they treat food service, customer service workers. And I'm not here to say that all workers are innocent and are never wrong, because I've definitely worked with some horrible workers as well. And sometimes the workers that you end up working with, they are just as random and strange as some of the customers that you interact with. So you also just never know who you're working with. So one of the things I also realized was having that wall, that having that separation between your personal life and your professional life. It's important to have that kind of boundary, not just for yourself but for others. Because sometimes, and it depends on where you're working, everybody's looking for their own best interest. So sometimes having clear boundaries is what makes the job tolerable. And speaking of tolerable, that is definitely one of the things that I realized about myself, how much I can tolerate and how long my patience is. I mean, I've been told that I have a very big patience when it comes to things. I'm good at not letting things get to me, and that's hugely because of the boundaries and what I had to work with during my time at Tim Hortons. It's definitely good, but the kind of bad side to that was I was sort of developing this sort of existential nihilism thinking. Like, if something bad happens, my train of thought would look like, okay, something bad happens. Well, bad things happen all the time, and this bad thing affecting me is no different than this good thing that's affecting me. So, in the end of the day, does it really matter? Well, no, because nothing matters, because everything dies, and in the end, nobody will remember. That's kind of like the train of thought that happens. But then there's another side to that where it's like kind of the opposite of like, if nothing matters and everything dies eventually, and everything is as random as I think they are, then why not care about them anyways? Because even if caring and not caring will result in nothing in the end, well, then why not care and have a moment of peace and happiness anyways? Does that make sense? But I remember thinking that with like customer interactions and like dealing with certain with a certain manager at the time, where it's like, well, this interaction, it doesn't matter. This, what you're saying to me, doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. We're both gonna die in the end and be one with the earth, and nothing will be remembered. So like, why should I care about what you think of me? That's one way to go about life, and that's certainly my own prerogative. But I have realized that I have to be careful about thinking like that with certain aspects of my life, because there are things that I still want to enjoy and I do still care about, and thinking like that with certain aspects of life is not as beneficial. And I don't really know where I'm going with this because I feel like I kind of went on a tangent. I think that's kind of just what I want to share in terms of my experience at working in fast food. I don't know what else to say now. But yeah, I will upload another video soon. It's almost the end of May, so I'm planning to make a video about my snail mail goodies for June, and I have yet to show a sketchbook tour. I have one sketchbook that I would say is finished-ish that I kind of want to show, which that sketchbook I started end of 2025 until March of this year. But until next time, see you in the next one. Bye.